3:17 a.m. When the emergency room's automatic doors opened, I was staring at that big white clock on the wall. Red hands, 20 more minutes? 20 minutes and I'd be out of this hellhole and on my way home. I'd take a shower, I'd lie down in bed, I'd close my eyes. I've been an emergency room nurse for 20 years, and every shift I think the same thing. 20 more minutes. But when the doors opened, I forgot about going home. 2 people came in. No, came in isn't the right word. They stumbled in. They were being dragged. They moved like a single body. But there were 2 heads, 4 arms, 4 legs, and both of them were screaming. The old man was in front, in his 70s. Gray hair, a sweaty face, panic in his eyes. Behind him was a young woman, around 35. Her black dress was torn. Her makeup was smeared across her face. They were stuck together, as if someone had glued them together. Their lower bodies were so tightly intertwined that they couldn't separate. "Help!" the man shouted. His voice was high-pitched, childlike, broken with fear. "For God's sake, please!" The woman was crying. "We're stuck together. We can't separate. It is burning. Everything is burning." I was shocked at that moment. My hand was frozen in the air. I've been doing this job for 20 years. I've seen a man with a knife in his chest, a gunshot victim who came by ambulance but walked inside, a carpenter who accidentally cut his own finger with a saw. But this was different. This defied logic. Then the automatic doors opened again. Slowly, this time, quietly, an elderly woman entered. 68, maybe 70 years old. She wore a blue cardigan, white pants, and had her hair pulled back. She held a small bag and her insurance card, and on her face, there was a smile, a peaceful, calm, almost happy smile. She walked to the reception desk. Her steps were calm. She showed no urgency. She walked as if she were going to the market in the morning or to a doctor's appointment. She placed her insurance card on the desk. She looked at Stacy, our night receptionist. "Good evening. I am here for my husband, Richard Martinez. You'll need to call the plastic surgeon." "This will take a while." Stacy froze. The pen fell from her hand. You are his wife." The woman nodded. "Yes, we were married for 42 years, but not anymore. It ended tonight." That smile stunned me. There was no anger. There was no sadness. Just peace. As if she had finished a very long, very tiring job, and now she was at ease. I walked towards her. My heart was racing, but my feet were moving. The woman turned to me. Our eyes met. Brown eyes, calm, clear, no regret, and in that moment, I understood. This wasn't an accident. This was the art of revenge, ma'am, I said carefully. "What happened to them?" She looked at the stuck couple. Then at me. "Superglue, I switched my husband's lubricant. He used the wrong product." The emergency room fell silent. The man with chest pains stopped. The athlete with the sprained ankle stopped. The woman kept smiling. "My name is Linda Martinez, and tonight I found justice." That is when I knew. This wasn't just a medical case, it was a story. A 68-year-old woman, after 42 years of cheating, had brought her husband and his mistress to the emergency room stuck together. No screams, no violence. Just a plan, a tube of glue, and perfect timing. I've been doing this job for 20 years, thousands of patients, hundreds of strange cases. But Linda Martinez, she would be legendary. The emergency room was already crowded that night. In the right corner sat a man, hands on his chest, face pale, around 50, suspected heart attack. In the left corner, a young girl, her ankle swollen, injured during a basketball game. In the middle, a mother, a 3-year-old child in her arms, feverish, a normal Sunday night shift. Chaotic but familiar. Until Richard and Sophia walked in. Triage nurse Amanda rushed over to me. Her face was bright red. She was out of breath. "Jessica, you have to see this. I don't know how to describe it." She was holding the tablet with trembling hands. I walked over to the clinging couple. Richard, the old man, was still moaning. Please, hurry, I can't take it. The pain, Sophia. The young woman had stopped crying. Now she was just shaking. The tears had stopped, but her body was still in shock. Mr. Martinez, I said calmly, I am Nurse Jessica Park. We're going to help you, but first I need to understand what happened. How did you end up like this? Richard's eyes were cloudy. He couldn't focus. We used lubricant. But it got stuck. His voice trailed off. Was it from the pain or the embarrassment? I couldn't tell. Maybe both. Sophia was crying silently. Her makeup was completely smudged. Her black dress was torn. Her hair was a mess. She was young, beautiful perhaps. But right now she was just scared. Nurse, she whispered. Are we going to die? No, you won't die, but you will suffer, and it will last a long time. I was trying to be professional, but a voice inside me was laughing. I've been a nurse for 20 years. I don't judge patients, but this was a special case. Amanda came over to me. She handed me the tablet. Jessica, what should I write? What is the reason for the complaint? The form was blank. The cursor was blinking. I took a deep breath. Write, accidental genital adhesion with industrial adhesive. 2 patients. Surgical intervention required. Amanda's eyes widened. Really? Should I write that? Yes. How else should we write it? Amanda started typing, but her hands were shaking. She hit the wrong keys. She deleted it twice and rewrote it. Just then, Linda, the elderly woman, approached us. She still had the insurance card in her hand. Nurse, did you call the plastic surgeon? There was no urgency in her voice. Just curiosity, as if she had placed a delivery order and was now asking when it would arrive. We're calling, I said. But wait a minute, you, Linda interrupted. I am Linda Martinez, Richard's wife, ex-wife now. It is important you call the plastic surgeon because this isn't a normal emergency room procedure. Industrial superglue, it has damaged the skin at the tissue level. You can't separate it with normal methods. I stopped. I looked at her. How do you know all these details? Linda smiled. That serene smile was there again. Because I researched it online. I searched effects of superglue on skin. I read for 3 days, what should you use for maximum bonding strength? Gorilla Glue professional grade, 24 hours for full cure, but 3 to 4 minutes for tissue. Level bonding. By the time they realized it, it was too late. My breath caught. This woman wasn't just angry, she was prepared, she had researched, she had planned. This wasn't spontaneous rage, this was cold, calculated, perfect revenge. Richard screamed, Linda, you tried to kill us! Linda turned to him. Her face was calm, her eyes were cold. No, Richard, I didn't kill you. I just humiliated you, and that is much better. Sophia sobbed. Why? Why did you do this? We were just... Linda interrupted. Just what? In love. No, Sophia, you were just in love with his money. Richard was just in love with a young body. It wasn't love. It was just greed and ego. I called Dr. Morrison. Our senior emergency room doctor, 65 years old, seen it all. A man about to retire. When he arrived, he saw the situation and froze. Jessica, is this real? Yes, doctor, it is real. Dr. Morrison approached the clinging couple. He put on his gloves. He examined them carefully. My God, I've been a doctor for 35 years. I've never seen anything like this. He began checking their vital signs. They were both drenched in sweat. They were both shaking. Dr. Morrison spoke seriously. Call in a plastic surgeon immediately. This is beyond us. There is a risk of tissue damage. One wrong move could cause permanent damage. Then he turned to Linda. Ma'am, did you really do this? Linda nodded. There was no regret on her face. Yes, doctor, I did it. Why? Linda took a deep breath. Because Richard cheated on me for 42 years. He used me emotionally. He belittled me, and tonight I showed him how it felt. Dr. Morrison took notes. I understand. I still have to treat you. The rest is up to the police. Linda calmly walked to the waiting area. It is okay, I'll wait, I am in no hurry. I waited 42 years, I can wait a few more hours. Sophia begged. Give me painkillers, please, I can't stand it. Dr. Morrison shook his head. I can't. Painkillers affect blood flow. They complicate the separation procedure. I am sorry, but you'll have to wait. Richard shouted angrily. This woman is torturing us, and you are just standing by and watching. I intervened. My voice was calm. Mr. Martinez, we are trying to save your life right now. What Miss Linda is doing is a separate issue. The police are already on their way. But first, we have to separate you. Amanda had prepared the examination room, a large room, a special stretcher, big enough for 2 people to lie side by side. Jessica, ready, let's get them in. We laid Richard and Sophia on the stretcher. Their positions were so strange, so pitiful, that I had to force myself not to laugh for a few seconds. But then I remembered Linda's face, that peaceful smile, and I understood this woman wasn't just angry. This woman wanted justice. Dr. Morrison asked, when will the plastic surgeon arrive? 15 minutes, I said. Dr. Sarah Chen is on her way. Richard groaned. We have to wait another 15 minutes? Dr. Morrison replied sternly. Mr. Martinez, the plastic surgery team was at home sleeping. We called them on an emergency code. They got dressed. They're on their way. You can show some gratitude. Linda was sitting in the waiting room. She had a magazine in her hand, but she wasn't reading it. She was just holding it. Her eyes were distant. She was thinking, what was she thinking about? The 42 years? The betrayal? Or maybe freedom? I approached her. Mrs. Martinez, would you like something to drink? Water, tea? Linda looked at me. Water would be nice. Thank you, Jessica. She knew my name. She had read my name tag. I brought her a glass of water. Linda drank it, slow sips. Then she looked at me. Jessica, are you judging me? I paused, I thought. Then I answered honestly. No, Mrs. Martinez. I am not judging you. I am trying to understand. Linda smiled. Good, because it is a long story, and if you want to hear it, I'll tell you. When plastic surgeon Dr. Sarah Chen arrived, she called Linda into the examination room too. Miss Martinez, please come in as well. I need to fully understand the situation. Linda stood up. She took her purse. She walked in with calm steps. I stayed in the room. I was there to monitor her vital signs, but really I wanted to hear this story. Dr. Chen turned to Linda. She was a young woman around 35 years old and talented. She was serious. Miss Martinez, what exactly did you use? Linda took a small tube out of her bag. It was empty, but the label was still legible. Gorilla Glue Professional Grade Industrial Superglue, 3,400 Psi bond strength. I bought it at the hardware store 3 days ago. Richard screamed. Linda, why did you do this to me? Linda turned to him. There was no anger on her face, only exhaustion. Deep, 42. Year, old fatigue. Why? She said quietly. Richard, are you really asking why? And then she began to speak. She didn't change her voice. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She just told it. Calm, flat, seemingly emotionless. But every word was sharp. I stood there, listened, and took notes. Because this story wasn't just Linda Martinez's story. It was every old woman's nightmare. But it wasn't romantic. It was endurance. It was habit. Sometimes it was just being there. I married Richard in 1983. I was 26. He was 28. He was a young, handsome, ambitious salesman. I was a young secretary. My boss introduced us. Linda, this is Richard. He is a good guy. Give him a chance. So I did. On our first date, he took me to an Italian restaurant. We had spaghetti carbonara. The bill came to $45. Richard proudly paid it, I said. Isn't that too expensive? He said. You deserve the best. And I fell in love. Or I thought I did. Our wedding was small. 50 guests came. We had a church wedding, a simple affair. We spent a total of $3,200. Richard's father said, "Son, don't spend the money on the wedding, invest it in the future." Richard listened. I listened too. I was young and obedient back then, young and stupid. "We didn't go on a honeymoon," Richard said. "Linda, if we spend the money now, we won't be able to buy a house later." I agreed, because it made sense. The house was important, the future was important. But now I look back and think, maybe Richard just didn't love me. Maybe he loved the house. He loved the money. He loved the future. But he never loved me. We rented for the first 5 years. We lived in a small apartment, 1 bedroom and 1 bathroom. We paid $450 a month in rent. I was still working as a secretary. I was making $28,000 a year. Richard had become a sales manager. He was making $65,000 a year together. We saved $1,500 every month. Every month, no vacations, no fun, just work and saving. In 1988, Daniel was born, our first child. Richard was very happy. "Linda, we're a family now," he said. I was happy too, but I was also scared because babies are expensive. Diapers, formula, doctors, Richard said. "Don't worry, I earn enough." But we needed my salary too, I knew that. I went back to work when Daniel was 6 months old. I put him in daycare. We paid $600 a month. It was expensive, but I had no choice. I dropped him off at 7 in the morning. I picked him up at 6 in the evening. He was there for 11 hours. I was at work for 11 hours, Richard. Richard was working as usual. He came home late. I have important clients, Linda, understand me. In 1991, Emily was born, the second child. Same thing again, work, daycare, home, work, daycare, home, a cycle, an endless, exhausting, painful cycle. But I didn't complain because Richard would say, "Linda, you are amazing, you work, and you take care of the kids." And I was proud, a foolish pride. We bought the house in 1998 for $180,000. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a small garden. Richard said, "Linda, we did it. We're homeowners." I was happy. I had worked for 15 years, saved for 15 years, and finally, we had a home. But there was a mortgage, $1,200 a month. I had taken out a 30-year loan. Richard said, "We'll pay it off early." We paid an extra $400 every month for 15 years. We paid off the mortgage in 2013, Richard said. "Linda, we're free now." But I wasn't free, because for 42 years, Richard never bought me flowers, not once. On my birthdays, our anniversaries. Never. "Flowers are a waste of money," he'd say. "They die in a week. Why buy them?" I agreed. Because it made sense. But now I understand. It wasn't logic. It was indifference. Richard never took me out. Restaurant, cinema, theater, he never took me anywhere. "Home cooking is better, cheaper," he'd say, so I cooked every day. Breakfast, lunchbox, dinner. For 42 years, how many meals did I make? Thousands, tens of thousands. And Richard never said, "Well done, Linda. That was wonderful." He would just say, "It needs salt," or "It is a little overcooked." Richard never bought me a gift for Christmas, my birthday, our anniversary. "Gifts are unnecessary, you already have everything," he would say. And I would agree, because maybe he was right. Maybe I did have everything, a roof, food, clothes, but there was no love, no attention, no appreciation. But 3 weeks ago, I found something. In Richard's car in the glove compartment, a small bottle. Johnson's personal lubricant. At first, I wasn't surprised. I thought maybe he had bought it for me, but then I looked at the receipt. There was a date on the receipt, the 18th of March 2025, my birthday, my 68th birthday. That day Richard came home. He said to me, "Linda, I am tired tonight. We'll celebrate your birthday tomorrow." I said, "Okay." I was the understanding wife I always was. I was always stupid. But the receipt was from 7:47 p.m. It was purchased at the downtown branch of CVS Pharmacy. Richard came home at 11:30 p.m. Where was he for 4 hours? What was he doing for 4 hours? And why did he buy lubricant? On my birthday, I didn't check his phone right away because I trusted him. I had trusted him for 42 years, but that receipt stuck in my mind. It got stuck. And 5 days later, while Richard was in the shower, I took his phone. The password was easy. 0318, our wedding anniversary. I opened the phone, I went into WhatsApp, and I saw it. There was a chat name. Richard never used emojis. We had been married for 42 years. He had never sent me a heart emoji, but he was sending hearts to this S every day, every hour. I read the messages. They went back 6 months. The first message, "Hi, beautiful. You looked amazing today." Date, the 15th of September, 2024. 6 months ago, I kept going. Each message was worse. "I want to be with you. I want to leave Linda. But divorce is too expensive. You are young and beautiful. She is old and boring. I want to start a new life with you." Old and boring. I was old and boring. I took care of him for 42 years. I cooked. I earned money. I cleaned the house. I raised children. And then my birthday, the 18th of March, Richard S. wrote, "It is her birthday today, but I am meeting you. I got you a special gift," was replied. "Lubricant? You are romantic, baby Richard. Hee yes, 8 p.m. at the Riverside Motel, room 314. On my birthday, my 68th birthday. Richard met her at the motel, and he had bought lubricant. Not for me, he had bought it for her. I hung up the phone, put it back in its place. Richard came out of the shower. "Good evening, Linda." I smiled. "Good evening, darling." I didn't sleep that night. I cried until morning. I buried my face in the pillow silently. Richard was sleeping next to me. He was snoring. He had no idea. He had no idea about anything. When I woke up in the morning, my eyes were swollen. But I put on makeup. I made breakfast. I made Richard's favorite omelet, toast, orange juice. He ate. "Thanks, Linda, that was great," he said, and went to work. That day I sat in the office. I sat in front of the computer screen for hours, but I wasn't working. I was thinking, what should I do? Should I get a divorce? But divorce? Richard knows lawyers. Good lawyers. I am just a former secretary. Maybe I won't get anything. I came home that evening. Richard was late again. "I had a meeting, Linda," I smiled. "It is okay, honey." But something inside me had changed. I didn't believe it anymore. I didn't accept it anymore. I wasn't the old Linda anymore. Linda paused. She took a sip from her glass of water. Her hands were shaking. She had been calm throughout the whole story, but now her hands were shaking. "That night," she continued, "I checked Richard's phone again. The messages were still coming, every day, every hour. Who was S? I had to know." I searched on Facebook. It was impossible to search just for C's. But there were a few clues in Richard's messages. He had asked, "How is the real estate business going?" So she was a real estate agent. Then I looked at the Google Maps history on Richard's phone. Everywhere was recorded. Riverside Motel 14 times, 2142 Maple Street 8 times, downtown restaurants 6 times, all recorded in the last 6 months. I searched for the address 2142 Maple Street on Google. A listing for a house for sale came up on Zillow. Real estate agent, Sophia Reed, 34 years old. There was a photo, young, beautiful, and in her profile photo, she was pictured with Richard. Richard's face was blurred, but he was in the background intentionally. That is when I understood everything. Richard wasn't just cheating, he was also planning a future, with young, beautiful Sophia without me. "For 2 weeks, said Linda, her voice now firmer. "I checked Richard's phone every night, after he fell asleep. Quietly, the password was still the same. 0318. Richard hadn't changed it. Why would he? I was a stupid wife. I never suspected. I took screenshots of every message, 127 of them. I recorded every GPS location. 14 of them, I copied every credit card statement. Richard was treating Sophia to expensive dinners. He rented a room at the Riverside Motel 6 times. He paid $120 each time. I loaded everything onto a USB drive. Then I backed it up to Google Drive, because I knew Richard is smart. If he found the USB drive, he could destroy it. But he couldn't find Google Drive. My password is different. Linda's eyes lit up. For the first time, there was a liveliness in her voice as she spoke. Then I met with a lawyer, Margaret Chen. She was an expert in women's rights. Her office was downtown. I made an appointment, I said. Divorce counseling. Margaret was a middle-aged woman around 55. She was serious but warm. I sat down and told her everything. 42 years, the cheating, the messages, the GPS. I told her everything. Margaret listened. She took notes. Then she said, "Linda, this evidence is perfect. You could get 70% in a divorce case, maybe more." I asked. "How?" Margaret explained. "In California, marriage is community property. In a normal divorce, it is split 50-50ths. But if there is proof of infidelity, the judge can shift the balance, especially if Richard is trying to cheat you." I didn't understand at the time. "Cheat me?" Margaret smiled. "Linda, what did Richard say? You take the house, I'll take the savings." I nodded. "Yes, he said that." Margaret said, "That is fraud. The house is worth $340,000. The savings are only $87,500. Richard is trying to trick you into giving him the house because he'll run off with Sophia using the savings." Linda clenched her fists tightly. She was getting angry again as she told the story. At that moment, everything became clear. Richard wasn't just cheating on me, he was robbing me. He was trying to steal the money we had saved together over 42 years, and I almost agreed. I was going to say, "Yes, Richard, you take the money, I'll take the house." Stupid Linda. Margaret prepared the divorce papers. There was a total of $427,500 in assets. 70%, $299,250 would go to me, 30%, $220. $8,250 would go to Richard. The papers were ready, they just needed to be signed. But there was a problem. Richard might not sign. We could go to court. It could be a long and expensive and exhausting process, Margaret said. "Linda, be prepared. This won't be easy." I said, "Richard will sign." Margaret was surprised. "How can you be so sure?" I smiled. "Because I'll leave him vulnerable. I'll make him so ashamed that he won't want anything. He'll just want to hide." Margaret looked at me curiously. "How will you do that?" I didn't answer because I didn't know yet, but I knew I would find a way. Linda paused. She took a deep breath. Dr. Chen was taking notes. I was checking vital signs, but really I was just listening. This story was extraordinary. That night, Linda continued, I sat at home. Richard had come home from work. We ate dinner, we talked. No, Richard talked. I listened. Work, sales, customers, normal, ordinary. He acted as if he hadn't been cheating on me for 6 months. I did the dishes. Richard watched television. We went to bed at 11. Richard fell asleep right away. I couldn't sleep, I thought in the dark. How could I leave him vulnerable? How could I embarrass him? I didn't want violence because violence would make me the guilty one. I wanted to be the victim, or at least morally justified. When I woke up in the morning, an idea came to me, but it was crazy, impossible, dangerous. No, Linda, I said to myself, this is too much. But the thought stuck. The lubricant in Richard's glove compartment, that bottle was still there. I had checked. Richard used it, on his dates with Sophia. And I thought, what if that lubricant was something else? Linda's eyes lit up. She was almost smiling as she told the story. I searched on Google, superglue effect on skin. I read for hours. I read forums and medical articles. I learned that industrial superglue bonds at the tissue level. It requires surgical intervention to remove, but it is not fatal, just painful and embarrassing. I researched more. Which glue is the strongest, 24 hours to fully cure. but bonds at the tissue level in 3 to 4 minutes. Perfect. But I was still hesitant. Linda, this is very dangerous. Richard could really get hurt. But then I reread Richard's messages. He is old and boring. I need young people now. I am going to leave him. And the hesitation was gone. The next day, during lunch break, I went to the hardware store. I bought Gorilla Glue Professional Grade. I paid $12.99. The cashier asked, "Home repairs?" I smiled. "Yes, I am going to permanently fix something." He said, "It is a very strong product. Use it carefully." I said, "Don't worry, I'll be very careful." Linda paused. She took another sip from her water glass. Her hands weren't shaking anymore. She was completely calm. I went home. Richard was at work. I went to the kitchen. I put on gloves so I wouldn't leave fingerprints. Then I went to Richard's car. I opened the glove compartment. The lubricant bottle was there. It was half full. I took the bottle, I brought it to the kitchen. I opened it carefully. I emptied its contents into the sink. Then I slowly poured glue into it until it was completely full. The color was almost the same, transparent, slightly yellowish. Then I closed the cap tightly. I wiped the bottle, cleaned it, so there would be no fingerprints. Then I put it back in the glove compartment. Exactly in the same place, in the same position, so Richard wouldn't notice. Linda closed her eyes. She was reliving the memory. At that moment, I felt a strange sense of peace. There was no guilt, no fear, just a sense of justice. For 42 years, Richard had betrayed me. He had emotionally killed me. And now I was going to teach him. I was going to teach him what pain was, what shame was. I waited 4 days, said Linda. For 4 days, I acted normal. I made breakfast. I cooked dinner. I cleaned the house. I talked to Richard. I laughed. I smiled. I played the perfect wife. But on the 4th day, Richard came home in the evening. His face was serious. He sat down. He looked at me, and he said, "Linda, we need to talk." I said, "Yes, dear, I am listening." Richard said, "Linda, we've been together for 42 years. We've had good years, but I can't go on anymore." I asked why. He said, "Because you've aged. I've aged too, but you are not the same anymore. You are not beautiful. You are not energetic." I smiled. Yes, I smiled, because I knew the plan would work. "So what do you want, Richard?" I said. He said, "I want a divorce. But I want to part on good terms. You take the house, I'll take the savings. Let it be fair." 42 years later, he was talking to me about fairness. I said, "I need to think about it, Richard. Give me a week." He relaxed. "Of course, Linda. You are always so understanding." Linda leaned forward. Her eyes locked with Richard's. "And Richard, that evening I checked his phone for the last time. You had texted Sophia. Linda agrees to the divorce. We'll celebrate Sunday night, 8 o'clock at your place." Sophia replied, "Perfect, baby. It'll be a romantic night." That is when I knew everything Sunday night. 2 days later, Richard would go to Sophia's house, they would celebrate, and they would use lubricant. But it wouldn't be lubricant they used, it would be glue. On Sunday, said Linda, Richard was very happy. He was whistling. He was singing in the shower. He wore his best shirt, blue pinstripes, Sophia's favorite. He shaved. He put on cologne. He combed his hair, a 70-year-old man getting ready for his young lover. And I was watching. He said to me, "Linda, I'll be home late tonight. I have a business meeting." I smiled. "Okay, honey, be careful." Richard was surprised. "Thank you, Linda. You are always so understanding." And he left. The car pulled out of the garage. I watched from the window. Then I got ready too. I wore a simple dress. I pulled my hair back. I didn't wear makeup because I wanted to be invisible. I put these things in my bag: phone charger, water, sandwich, divorce papers, USB, Richard's insurance card. Yes, I took the insurance card too because I knew we were going to the hospital tonight. Linda smiled. That peaceful smile was there again. I got into my old Honda Civic, Richard always said. There is no need to buy a new car, because we were saving everything, but now those savings were mine. I went to Sophia's house. 2142 Maple Street. I parked 2 blocks away. I started waiting in a place where I could see from the car, but they couldn't see me. I turned off the engine. I turned off the lights and waited. At 8 o'clock, Richard arrived. He parked his car. He rang the doorbell. Sophia opened it. Black dress, heavy makeup, red lipstick. They hugged. They kissed. I watched. Did it hurt? Yes. But at the same time, I was satisfied because now I could see clearly. 42 years of marriage was a lie, and I was no longer trapped in that lie. At 11 o'clock, the lights went out in the house, the bedroom. That is when they started. Richard was taking that bottle. From the glove compartment, they were using it with Sophia, and 3 or 4 minutes later, they would be glued together. Linda got up. She paced around the room. She was full of energy. At 2:47 a.m., the phone rang. It was Richard. He sounded panicked. Linda, come to the hospital. It is an emergency." I asked. "What happened?" He screamed. "Don't ask. Come right now, Memorial Hospital." I hung up the phone. I smiled. The plan had worked. It had worked perfectly. I got dressed. I grabbed my bag. I got in the car, and I came here. I found you, Richard, and Sophia were stuck together. Helpless, panicked, and I had never felt so peaceful. Richard was crying. "Linda, I am so sorry." Linda looked at him. There was no mercy on her face. "Don't apologize, Richard. It is too late now. For 42 years, I apologized. I am sorry dinner's late. I am sorry I am tired. I am sorry I am old. Enough. Now it is your turn." Sophia spoke through sobs. "I was just in love." Linda smiled, a bitter smile. "In love, Sophia, with a 70-year old man number. You were in love with his money. What did Richard tell you? 'My wife is old, I am rich, we'll start a new life together, right?' And you believed him, because you were greedy too." Sophia fell silent. Because it was true. Linda pulled an envelope out of her bag. Inside were photos, messages, GPS records, everything. She dumped it on the table. "This is the evidence," my lawyer said. "With this evidence, I'll get 70%, maybe more." Because Richard didn't just cheat. He also tried to defraud me. Richard's face turned pale. "Linda, please, I need you." Linda laughed, a cold, harsh laugh. "You need me. 4 days ago, you said. You can't make me happy anymore. Now you need me, because Sophia is leaving you. Isn't that right, Sophia?" Sophia didn't answer. She lowered her head. Because Linda was right. Before leaving the examination room, Linda looked at Richard one last time. "Richard, for 42 years you won, I lost. But tonight, I won. And now we're even. Goodbye, Richard." And she left. Head held high, smiling, peaceful. I stayed there. I thought about that night. Linda sitting in her car, watching Sophia's house. Her inner monologues, thinking about 42 years. And then that decision, that final, irreversible decision. It wasn't just revenge. It was an ending, an end to 42 years of a wrong marriage, an end to 42 years of pain, an end to 42 years of silence, and Linda had found her voice. Too late, but she had found it. Dr. Chen called me. "Jessica, let's get ready for surgery. It will take a long time." I nodded. I returned to the examination room. Richard and Sophia were still there, clinging to each other, trembling with fear. "Mr. Martinez, Miss Reed," Dr. Chen said in a professional voice, "we are beginning the preparation for surgery. First, I will explain the process to you, then you will sign the consent form, then you will be taken to the operating room." Richard asked, "How long will it take?" Dr. Chen looked at his notebook. 4 to 5 hours, maybe longer. The industrial adhesive is bonded at the tissue level. We'll perform manual separation, millimeter by millimeter, slowly, carefully. Sophia started crying again. "Will it hurt?" Dr. Chen answered honestly, You'll be under general anesthesia during the surgery. You'll be asleep, but afterwards it will hurt a lot. Sophia asked, her voice trembling. If there would be scars. Dr. Chen paused. Then he said, yes, there will be permanent scars on the genitals and inner thighs. The skin will tear. There will be tissue damage. After healing, scar tissue will form, reddish, raised. It will fade over time, but it won't go away completely. The room fell silent. Richard laid his head back on the pillow. His eyes were on the ceiling. Sophia was sobbing. I checked her vital signs. Dr. Chen, I said quietly, the blood pressure is very high, especially Miss Sophia's pulse is high. Dr. Chen nodded. I know, but we can't give painkillers. They affect blood flow. We can only give sedatives. I prepared the sedative. Miss Reed, this will relax you. The panic will subside. Sophia said nothing. She just cried, then to Richard, same dose. Mr. Martinez, take a deep breath, try to calm down. Richard looked at me. There was no anger in his eyes anymore, just exhaustion. Nurse Jessica, am I a bad man? I paused and looked at him. I decided to be honest. Mr. Martinez, you are not a bad man. You just made bad choices. You threw away a 42-year marriage. You hurt a loyal woman for a younger woman, and now you are living with the consequences. Richard closed his eyes. You are right. You are right about everything. Plastic surgeon Dr. Sarah Chen was ready. 35 years old, bright, experienced. Next to her was Dr. Michael Rodriguez, 45 years old, a specialist plastic surgeon. The two of them assessed the situation together. My God, said Dr. Rodriguez, putting on his mask. I've had a 35-year career. I've seen all kinds of cases. But this is another level. Dr. Chen nodded. Me too. First time I've seen this. They approached Richard and Sophia, gloves, masks, gowns. They carefully examined the adhesion area. Dr. Rodriguez spoke thoughtfully. The glue is completely fused to the genital area and inner thighs. The skin layers are affected. The epidermis, dermis, even the subcutaneous tissue. It is very deep. How will we separate it? I asked. Dr. Rodriguez explained. Using a solvent would cause skin damage, chemical burns. It would be worse. We'll separate it manually with a scalpel. Very carefully. One wrong move could cause nerve damage or cut a blood vessel. How long will it take? Dr. Chen replied. 4 to 5 hours minimum. We have to check every millimeter. We can't rush. Pre-op preparations began, step by step, according to protocol. Dr. Rodriguez brought the form. Mr. Martinez, Miss Reed, the risks of surgery are bleeding, infection, scar tissue, nerve damage, loss of function, anesthesia complications. Do you understand? Richard nodded. Yes. Sophia sobbed. Yes, you need to sign. He handed them a pen. Richard signed, trembling. Sophia signed, crying. I signed as a witness. At 5 a.m., everything was ready. It is time, said Dr. Chen. I helped Richard and Sophia onto the stretcher, a special stretcher. Wide for 2 people because they were joined. We couldn't put them on separate stretchers. We entered the operating room, bright lights, the smell of sterilization, equipment lined up. Dr. Chen, Dr. Rodriguez, Dr. Watson, 2 surgical nurses, and me, a team of 6. For a major operation. Dr. Watson began the anesthesia. Mr. Martinez, count down from 10. Richard began. 10, 9, 8. His eyes closed. He fell asleep. Same procedure for Sophia. She fell asleep too. Now there were 2 people stuck together but unconscious. The surgery began. 5:15 a.m. Dr. Chen and Dr. Rodriguez first made a strategic plan. Let's start at the edges first, then we'll move toward the center. The most delicate part will be last. Dr. Rodriguez nodded. Agreed. 7:30 a.m. 2 hours had passed. 60% was complete, but the hardest part was still ahead. Now we're getting to the genital area, said Dr. Chen. We have to be very careful. There are nerves. There are blood vessels. One mistake could cause permanent damage. Dr. Rodriguez took a deep breath. Okay, I am ready. Let's take it slow. The two worked together. Every millimeter was checked. Every cut was calculated. There was bleeding, but it was controlled. But something unexpected happened. The uterus had been damaged. She would never have children, and even intimate moments could be dangerous. Richard and Sophia were now two separate people, but there were scars, deep red, raised. The skin was torn in places. There was tissue damage. The marks would remain, definitely. Dr. Chen began wound care. He poured on an antibacterial solution. The wounds were cleaned. Then stitches. Some areas were stitched, some areas were just closed. How many weeks will it take to heal? I asked. Dr. Rodriguez replied. Minimum 6 weeks, maybe 8. The risk of infection is high. Daily wound care is necessary. Antibiotics, painkillers, follow-up. When will the scar fade? Dr. Chen shook his head. 6 months to a year, but it won't go away completely. Permanent scar tissue remains. I am sorry, but that is the truth. The surgery was over. It was 9 a.m. Richard and Sophia were taken to the recovery room. They were still asleep. They would wake up in an hour or two. Dr. Chen took off his gloves. Jessica, I've been a surgeon for 35 years, but this was the strangest surgery I've ever had. 10:30 a.m. Richard woke up. He opened his eyes. He looked around. Where am I? You are in the recovery room, Mr. Martinez. The surgery is over. Richard groaned in pain. The pain, so much pain, Richard asked. Sophia. Where is she? I pointed to the bed next to him. She is right here in the bed next to you. She is awake too. Richard turned his head. He saw Sophia on a separate stretcher with separate bandages. However, the lady will no longer be able to have children. We had to remove her uterus. I am sorry, I replied. They were no longer attached. 11 and Sophia woke up completely, she cried. The pain, I can't stand it. I gave her morphine, the same dose. The pain lessened but continued. Mrs. Reed, this pain can last for 6 weeks. You need to be patient. Sophia sobbed. The scar, is it permanent? I was honest. Yes, the doctors said so. The genital area and inner thighs, reddish scar tissue. It will fade over time, but it won't go away. And I am sorry we had to remove your uterus. Unfortunately, you won't be able to have children anymore, Sophia screamed. No, my life is over, Richard spoke quietly. Sophia, both our lives are over. Accept it. 11:30 a.m., the police came back, Detective Harris. Mr. Martinez, you need to give a statement. Richard was silent for a long time. Then, I am not pressing charges. The detective was surprised. Are you sure? I am sure. I deserved it. He turned to Sophia, Miss Reed. Sophia was crying. I didn't know. The detective looked at her sharply. You didn't know? You didn't know he was married? Sophia was silent because she couldn't lie. The detective wrote his report. Okay, the prosecutor will decide. But because you are not pressing charges, Linda Martinez may get a light sentence. 12 p.m. Linda came back with her lawyer, Margaret Chen. Mr. Martinez, Miss Reed, we're delivering the divorce papers. Richard spoke weakly. I already signed them. Margaret was surprised. When? Before the surgery. Margaret looked at Linda. Linda was smiling. Perfect, then it is easy, Mr. Martinez. The house goes to Mrs. Martinez. The savings are divided 70-30. Do you accept? Richard nodded. Yes. When I came to the hospital 2 days later, Richard and Sophia were still in bed. I entered Richard's room. He was alone. He was looking out the window, motionless, silent, as if he had disconnected from the world. Good morning, Mr. Martinez. How are you feeling? He turned his head. His face was sagging, his eyes were tired. He looked like he had aged 10 years in 48 hours. Jessica, I've lost everything. His voice was hoarse. I couldn't tell if it was from crying or from lack of sleep. I sat down next to him. What did you lose? He smiled quietly, a bitter smile. What did I lose? Everything, Jessica, everything. Linda filed for divorce. I found out yesterday it will be finalized in 2 weeks. The house stays with her, worth $340,000. 70% of the money goes to her. $299,250 I am left with. $128,250. And Sophia is gone. She left here yesterday. She was discharged. She got in the car. I looked at her phone. She blocked me. She blocked me on WhatsApp. She is not answering my messages. She is not answering my calls. She has disappeared. For 6 months, I told her, I love you every day. I said, I'll build a new life with you. I said, I'll leave Linda, and she only loved the money. When I became poor, she left. She left without looking back. Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't cry. It was as if she had no tears left. And Jessica, you know what the most painful part is? I thought I was right. For 6 months, I thought Linda was boring. Linda was old. I deserved better. I deserved a young, beautiful woman. I deserved a new life. But in reality, I was lucky. Linda was faithful. She was hard-working. She was self-sacrificing. She was by my side for 42 years, and I threw her away for a 34-year-old woman, for a woman who loved for money. Richard buried his head in his hands, and now I am alone, 70 years old, poor. Who wants me, Jessica? Who? I didn't answer because I knew. No one would. Richard was living with the consequences of his choices, and the consequences were painful. I stayed there in Sophia's empty room, I thought. A 34-year-old woman. She lost her job. She lost her friends. She lost her reputation. And now she wouldn't have a child. Was her life ruined? Number. But it had changed. It had changed a lot, and it would never be the same again. 3 days later, Linda came back. But this time, not as a patient. To talk to me. To see me, Jessica. She said, smiling. She had changed a lot. Her hair was freshly cut, stylish. Modern. Her clothes were colorful, a red blouse, white pants. Her eyes were shining. She looked 10 years younger. Linda, I said, hugging her. How are you? How is it going? She sat down. I ordered coffee. She drank it. She smiled. Jessica, I am having the best time of my life. Tell me, I said. The court granted the divorce. Yesterday, we're officially divorced. I got the house. The money is mine. Richard only gets 30%. My total assets are now $401,250. Her eyes sparkled, and Jessica, for the first time in 42 years, I am free. I don't have to answer to anyone. No one tells me, Linda, you are wasting money. No one tells me, Linda, you are getting old. It is just me. What are your plans? I asked curiously. Linda pulled a brochure out of her bag. I am going on a tour Italy. I am leaving next month. I'll be traveling for 2 weeks. Rome, Venice, Florence, Tuscany. I always dreamed of it, but Richard always said it was too expensive. Now I am going, alone and free. Then I'll take painting lessons. I always wanted to paint, but Richard said it was a waste of time. Now I will. And I'll volunteer at a family counseling center for women who've been cheated on. For older women, I'll tell them my story. I'll tell them, it is never too late. You can be free even at 68. Linda held my hand. Jessica, do you know what tonight taught me? What? That life is never too late. I lost 42 years, but I still have 20 or 30 years left, and I am going to live those years for myself, not for Richard, not for the children, not for society, just for me. Her eyes filled with tears, but tears of joy. For the first time in 42 years, I am happy, Jessica, and it is all thanks to that glue. She laughed. Seems like glue doesn't just stick people together. Sometimes it sets them free. A week later, Richard was discharged. His son Daniel came. He was there to pick up his father. I did Richard's final checkup, wound care instructions, antibiotics, follow-up appointments. Mr. Martinez, the scars will start to fade in 6 to 8 weeks. But there will be permanent scar tissue. I am sorry. Richard nodded. I know, Jessica. I'll remember every day. I'll remember Linda. I'll remember 42 years, because I'll never make that mistake again. Daniel looked at his father. There was disappointment on his face. Dad, Mom gave you so many chances. 42 years, and you cheated on her with a young woman. How could you do that? Richard couldn't answer because there was no answer, only shame. Richard bowed his head. I know, son, I am sorry. Sorry isn't enough, said Daniel. Mom took care of you for 42 years. She did everything, and you tried to abandon her because she got old. You should be ashamed. He pushed the wheelchair. Let's go, but not to Mom's house. We'll find a motel. Mom doesn't live with you anymore. Richard silently agreed. He had no choice. As we left the hospital, Richard turned to me one last time. Jessica, if you see Linda, will you say something? Tell her she was right about everything. And I am so sorry. I will, Mr. Martinez, I said. But you know Linda already knows. She always knew she was right. Now she spoke up, and she won. Richard sat in his wheelchair, 70 years old, lonely and poor. Now the best years of his life were behind him, and all that remained was regret. 3 months later, I ran into Richard, by chance. He had changed a lot. He had lost weight. He had aged. He was shopping alone. Mr. Martinez, I said, how are you? He stopped. He looked at me. Jessica, I am fine, I don't know. Where are you staying? I am renting a small apartment. I pay $800 a month in rent. Daniel helps me. But my pride is hurt, Safia. Richard laughed bitterly. She moved to Seattle. She has a new boyfriend on Instagram. He is rich. She completely forgot about me, she said. I love you for 6 months, but it was a lie. And Linda. Richard's eyes filled with tears. Linda is happy. Daniel showed me photos. Linda is in Italy. In Rome, in Venice, she is smiling, she is happy. She is free, she is 68, but she looks young. He paused. But Jessica, I am not angry with Linda because she was right. I deserved it. I deserved everything. And he walked away alone, old, broken. Linda was living freely with her $401,250. She was traveling to Italy, taking art classes. She was happy, peaceful, and strong. 6 months later, Linda came back, not to the hospital again, but to see me. I sat in the cafe. I was waiting. The door opened. Linda walked in, and I almost didn't recognize her. Her hair was now dyed. Brown. Natural. The grays were gone. Her clothes were stylish. An orange dress, a white jacket. She was wearing makeup, light but beautiful. But what had changed most were her eyes. They sparkled. They were full of life. She was 68 years old, but she looked 50. Jessica, she said, hugging me. Even her scent had changed. She used to use unscented soap. Now she wore perfume, light, floral. Linda, I didn't recognize you. You look amazing. We sat down. I ordered coffee. Linda ordered something else, a chocolate dessert. I learned in Italy, she said, smiling. Life is short. You have to eat sweets. The old Linda would never have said that. The old Linda would have said, sugar is unhealthy. How was Italy? I asked curiously. Linda's eyes lit up, Jessica. It was amazing. I stayed for 2 weeks. I saw the Colosseum in Rome. I rode a gondola in Venice. I visited art museums in Florence. I tasted wine in Tuscany. And the best part, no one told me, Linda, this is a waste of money. Because I was spending my own money. I was making my own decisions. For the first time in 42 years, I was living for myself. And Jessica, Linda said, her voice trembling slightly, I met someone in Italy. I stopped. I looked at her. Someone? Linda nodded. Her cheeks flushed, a 68-year-old woman, blushing like a young girl. His name is Marco. He is 71, a retired Italian teacher. He lost his wife 5 years ago. I met him at the National Museum in Rome. I was looking at a painting Caravaggio's. The calling Marco came up to me. "Isn't it beautiful?" he said in Italian. I replied in English. "Very beautiful." He started speaking English too. We went for coffee, we talked. We talked for hours. Marco told me about flowers, that every city in Italy has its own flower. In Rome, it is the geranium. In Venice, it is the lily. In Florence, it is the iris. Then Marco asked, "Why did you come to Italy, Linda?" I replied, "Because I wasn't free for 42 years. Now I am free." Marco nodded. "I understand. I was free after I lost my wife. But I was lonely. Freedom is beautiful, but loneliness is hard." Linda paused. She wiped her eyes, but the tears were tears of joy. Linda showed me a photo on her phone. With Marco. Marco was a tall, white-haired man with a kind face. Linda was standing next to him, smiling. Happy. "Are you still with Marco?" I asked. Linda nodded, slowly. "We talk on video calls. We write emails. Maybe next year I'll go back to Italy. Maybe Marco will come here. Who knows? But I am not rushing, Jessica. I am 68 years old. I have the rest of my life. And this time I'll live with the right people, with those who value me." Linda got ready to stand up. "I have to go." Justice had been served. But justice was a strange thing. It wasn't legal. It wasn't traditional. But it was effective. It was unforgettable. And most importantly, I learned that it is never too late to change, to be free, to start a new life. Linda waited 42 years, but she finally did it, and now she is happy. I am Jessica Park, a 20-year emergency room nurse. I've seen thousands of cases, but the Linda Martinez case, it is special. It is unforgettable. It is legendary. Every shift, I look at those emergency room doors, and I wonder, will another Linda come one day? Another quiet, strong, intelligent woman, another creative revenge? I don't know, but I do know this. Linda Martinez taught me something. Justice isn't only served in courts. Sometimes ordinary people serve it, with a plan, with glue, and with infinite courage. Linda Martinez's story is over, but its impact continues. Thousands of women heard her story. They were inspired, they found courage, and maybe they will find their own justice too. Non-violently, wisely, freely. And maybe this story would inspire other Lindas, encourage them, liberate them. Then everything would be worth it. The glue, the pain, the shame, the justice, everything would be worth it. This story is based on Linda Martinez's real experience. Names and places have been changed, but the essence of the story is true. If you are experiencing infidelity, emotional abuse, or marital problems, please seek professional help. Violence is not the solution. But courage, intelligence, and legal rights are always the solution. And remember, it is never too late. Even at 68, you can change. You can be free, you can be happy. Life is too short to be unhappy.